Hi folks, Joey Ricard with TracksideScenery.com. Welcome back. This is the new project layout. You may have seen it in some of our recent vlog style videos. I need a bridge over this stream. Let's cut to the chase. I know, there's a lot of commercially available bridges and products out there I could have used, but I have well, what do you call it? An affection for this little bridge right here. That's a Plasticville truss bridge that I used on the spruce coal and timber layout. Honestly, I've looked at a lot of those commercially available bridges, but nothing really fit the bill. I have limited space. So no harm, no foul, the spruce layout's in storage, and I had a couple of other different types of bridges that I put up there to see what they look like, and I just didn't like them. Well, the only drawback is that this bridge is not a bridge, it's just a truss. It has no deck and it has no ties or track, so I knew I was going to have to fabricate something, and I did. And when I say fabricate something, I mean everything except the truss. I took all the measurements and started fooling around in my CAD program, and I finally came up with something that worked. Obviously, I'm not a bridge engineer, and I couldn't even tell you what this part of the bridge is called. I'll just call it the underbelly or the frame, but it's all basswood, and yes, we will make this look like metal. Now keep in mind that I'm not a nut and bolt and rivet counter. I'm really just going for the flavor, and as long as it looks believable enough, I'm okay with it. So usually when I'm working, I have all these open containers around, and no joke, I've accidentally grabbed one of these little containers and almost drank it, so be careful. So why did I start with the bottom first? Well, that's just in case I screw something up, it won't be seen as easily, or I can fix it. Now you may notice that the ends of these rails are not painted, and that's because obviously at some point I'm going to have to solder these into the rest of the layout. I did the same basic thing with these guide rails, except I didn't spike them down before I stained, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. And here you have the last spike. Should have been a gold one, huh? So who's the lucky winner that's going to tell me they make spike pliers? I know that. I have some. I just couldn't find them. Let me just say that lighting is a tricky thing. So you have a single color and you look at it under two different light sources, and usually they appear different. Keep that in mind when you're modeling, because the same rules apply. And here here we have your not so secret ingredients. They're just finely ground red and black chalk, and you can find these at any craft store. Just grind them up into a fine powder. And then you're going to use some household alcohol. And yes, I know there's a lot of commercially available weathering powders and pigments out there. Use what you feel comfortable with. I use finely ground chalk. And if you're new to the channel, you may not have seen that we have other videos that describe this same process, or very similar processes, in weathering track and rail and that sort of thing. But I will say, for those that are familiar with the channel and have seen the weathering track videos, you'll notice I'm using a darker color red on the rails here. That's because I don't have the ties to deal with that we'd have to dumb down. So really, this color doesn't really have to be dumbed down any with black chalk. If you see the other videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. If I had to explain all that in one video, you'd be sitting here for 2 hours. No, thank you. Texture. Yep, texture. Very important, often overlooked in modeling. So remember this one scene right here, because we're going to try to come very close to doing something similar. At least the representation thereof. A word of caution, don't use your wife's hairspray, go buy your own. And notice that this red chalk is a lot brighter than the other chalk that we were using. That's because we're going to dumb it down later. You'll see what I mean. I did film the whole sequence with the truss bridge, but I decided to use the girder in this part because it made it easier to film, and it made it easier to see what I was actually doing on a nice flat surface. I just noticed that I keep using the word we, like I have a whole team here. There's a hairspray guy, he's going to spritz on the hairspray. There's a paint guy, a spike guy, a tie guy. Nope, it's just me. And you guys are keeping me company. Doing it this way just basically creates some random rust patterns on the panels. Now you can certainly fine-tune this process by taking some hairspray and spraying it into a cup and then using a fine tip brush to brush it on in a certain area. I would say you could use something like that if you were weathering a locomotive and you needed certain small areas to be covered. And of course you don't want to spray hairspray all over your locomotive. So this is just a general way of doing this. Texture, texture, texture. The key word, texture. This is very similar to the technique I used in the Weathering a Freight Car video, where we worked on that box car. Same general idea. So we're back to this old bridge, the truss. Now I know it looks a little different, it looks like I went crazy, but I did use quite a bit more chalk on this one because I wanted the actual finish of the metal to look rusty. In other words, not necessarily like peeling paint. I wanted the metal exposed, and that's what I'm trying to do here. And of course we're going to dumb this down. Now this is the key right here, and you're wondering why I use such a bright color red. That's because if we started with a darker red and we added black to it, it would just make it darker and darker and darker until you almost probably couldn't see it. But by it being so bright, I'm able to control how far down I want to bring it. In other words, this process doesn't exactly work the same in reverse. Using black to begin with and trying to add red does not produce the same results. It just doesn't. And of course, like with anything else, it takes time and experimentation. I think this is the third time I've actually weathered this bridge. It's like an old friend. And there you have it, this old bridge. I used the same methods underneath on the deck and the shoes, and she doesn't look too bad. Actually, I'm quite happy with the way it looks. It's not quite finished, but we'll finish it up later when we get ready to put it on the layout. This old bridge. Now I'm going to answer this question ahead of time because it's the most asked question for weathering videos. Do I seal this with anything? No, sir, I do not. It's not going to get picked up or be carried around, so it does not need any kind of sealing. Just like in the real world, a bridge does not have any sealer over top of the rust. Be sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and share the hobby. This is Joey Ricard of TracksideScenery.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.